It is 12:58 a.m. on Wednesday, February 19th. I am staying up late tonight, even though I have a full class and hockey practice tomorrow, a full class schedule. And the reason that I am doing this is because I needed some work time / alone time, and I could not get it in my room because of these godforsaken roommates. It's a struggle, and I will keep complaining about it until forever. Excuse me. But what I want to talk about is something that I actually wanted to talk about for a long while, and that I kept hinting about for a long bit. I thought that when I would talk about this, I would have a little bit more of a presentation, but I think that it's best to maybe just talk about this. And it's how I hear music. And this isn't I like a certain genre, me explaining why, but I truly believe that I hear music and interpret it differently than other people. And I don't want this to come from a spot or a place that I think that I'm better than anybody else. It is just a different way of listening to music, and it's just how I hear the music. And before I do that, let me preface with a little overview of how I describe good music to myself. There are 3 categories. I think I've mentioned this before, but there are 3 categories. There is you listen to have fun, and that is like the workout music, sometimes rap. I'm not the biggest fan of rap. I've talked about how I'm more into the musical side of music, while rap is more into the lyrical side and the storytelling that way. But like fun music you listen to, like the 2010s white girl music, like 2000s indie pop, stuff like that you listen to because it's fun to listen to. Then there's a section where it's music that's within a context of a movie and a scene. I feel like I have talked about this before, but it's that when I kind of created this category specifically for the Arcane, the Arcane soundtrack, and because of Arcane. And it made it so that you associate these songs with the scene within the movie or the TV show, any media that you're listening to. Like, I would think of Enveloped in Kindness, or My Quiet Forest Home from Octopath Traveler 2, or Decisive Battle 2. You associate things with the medium that you're watching and hearing, in turn hearing that music from. And so you associate the music with that scene. And depending on how good the scene is, for Arcane, it was really good. Octopath Traveler is really good. Any other form a media that I've really, really liked, I can see that. And you listen to it, and you associate it with that scene. If that scene's good, then it becomes better because you understand the context of when the music's supposed to be playing. But then within the context of that scene and the emotions that are playing out with the scene just in a vacuum, gets added to the song, and it becomes more emotional on top of what you already assumed that the emotion was supposed to be of the song. And I've said this before, but it's a feedback loop. Is that if the scene is good and the song is good, then the scene makes the song better, but then the song makes the scene better, and it just kind of keeps going up. And it creates something like, Ma me amour ennemi. I'm saying that totally wrong. It's the French song by Stromae from Arcane, Isha's song from Arcane. So it's going to be a pull-out from my childhood, but Chasing Cars by by Snow Patrol in Grey's Anatomy when Denny dies, pulling that out of the memory in the back of my head. But those scenes and those things are good songs in a vacuum, but because I associate it with a very emotional time, and granted all of those are pretty sad, melancholy times, but it heightens the impact of the song, and I think that's what makes it really good. And then comes the final category. The first 2 I feel like a lot of people listen to. They understand that, I understand that a bunch of people could see it that way and definitely do. But the third category is something I talked about that I put memories and emotions into songs. But I don't, like, I do that a lot. Like, I listen to a song and I think of this, and that's internalized within the song. Or, like, I have a song, it's called Glimmer by Electronomia, that if I listen to it and I relate to it heavily, or I feel it in my stomach, then that means that I'm about to, all the emotion that I've been penting up and all the anxiety is about to burst. There are songs within my playlist that I've associated with an emotion that I feel when I listen to it that I can relate. But there's another thing that I do, is that I listen to a song and I create a scene in my head. And I guess you can do that, like, you listen to a song, it makes you feel a certain way. But it's in kind of in pairing with the emotional side of things, like listening to an emotion. Like, I've tried to explain it to some people and they never really got it, but there's a book called The Sadness of Lemon Cake, where this person can eat food and feel the emotions of the person who cooked it. And so what I think of these songs is, like, Glimmer is what like a crash out. I don't want to say crash out because that's making it seem less genuine, but like what emotional buildup sounds like. Fix You by the Danny Olson remix sounds like cold wind hitting your face and the sublime feeling of the mountains. So like I hear that, like, the songs sound like what emotions feel like to me. And I feel like I internalize that a lot when I listen to songs. That if I think a song is incredibly, incredibly good, it's because it represents an emotion to me and it represents what it sounds like. And I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, sometimes it's a really good thing. But then sometimes it's an indication of what I should feel. And I don't know if that's necessarily healthy. Like, if I play a song to validate how I'm feeling, and is that healthy? Like, do I really understand what I'm feeling and the emotions that I have to use a song to validate them? But, so that's how my process of hearing it. But I want to move on from that and talk about the idea of painting a scene in my head when listening to music. So, this is where I really want to talk about Arturo. I've mentioned him before, but he is an absolute, like, genius when it comes to music and painting a scene within music contextually and telling a story just within notes. Like, I do want to actually say before this that I've talked about this before. I've said already in this video that I like music that's more musically interesting. And that's why I've probably tended to sway more to EDM and kind of that area. But Arturo, I'm terribly sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but has released a lot of good songs. Talks about Journey's End and a bunch of other things. But his, like, magnum opus currently is this album called Sketchbook. And I don't listen to a lot of albums through and really understand it and feel it. But, like, I've listened to World, Nurture, all the Porter Robinson albums. I don't have a lot of favorite artists that really release albums because they're more of individual producers, I guess. They're small enough. But Arturo has released this album, and it is absolutely beautiful. I talked about it when I talked about artsy songs. But every single song, I can paint a scene in my head and I can see myself experiencing what this music represents in a physical form in a way. I'm so sorry if this sounds so like, oh, look at me, but I'm not trying to sound that way. I'm merely trying to just explain, like, how I listen to this music. So the song Lily Pads, it is the second one on the playlist or on the album. And if you're ever listening to this, I highly, highly recommend checking out Athoro, especially this album. But it's soft piano. And every time I listen to it, it represents the feeling of content. That there's nothing else to worry about. That right now, you can just be happy with what you have in the moments and where you are. And I can imagine this, laying in an open field underneath a tree with a river, sitting down and just laying there and enjoying the silence, the nature. And I can clearly see something from this song. And it is so, so beautiful. Like, if I go a little bit farther down, Windmill Festival, which I think is my second favorite song, really feels like a festival. Like, I feel like when I play, you're going through this song, I'm like going through, there's wind blowing in my hair, and like kind of strutting down a main courtyard of stone and seeing everything around me being lively, like nigiyakana, that's the Japanese term for lively. Sorry, that was a weird thing. But everything is going around, it's exciting, the wind, I can paint this picture in my head just from this music. And I love it. Like, I love hearing and representing these songs in something within my head. Like, let me go through. Well, I can talk about the Zelda and Chill playlist, actually. These are a really good example of, I listen to these songs. The first Zelda and Chill is a summer playlist. The second Zelda and Chill is a winter playlist. The third one I actually didn't like as much, unfortunately, but the first two, amazing. So I hear those. And within the first album, there are two different songs. There are rainy summer songs and sunny summer songs. One of the best like sunny day songs is Lost Woods or Hateno Village. Beautiful. When I listen to it, it's warm and fuzzy and your comfort and you're just relaxing. Like when I listen to this, I can feel the sunshine on my skin. I can feel sitting in a car with my hand out the window, just going up and down in a wave motion. Or when I look at Lost Woods, I'm outside going for a walk. And I always say in nature, but you're outside going for a walk. And it's kind of like you're like a little uppity. And you're just seeing everything happen. And then there's very, very clear rainy day summer songs. Like, biggest one of my favorites, is Gerudo Valley. This song makes you feel a little bit more enclosed. Not cramped, but enclosed, as if you're like in a house. And I can just think of it just sitting down on like a chair, like a couch in your living room. And I don't read that much because that's a good talking thing later, but I don't read that much anymore. But I can just imagine sitting down in a chair. You're in shorts and t-shirt and a blanket over. And you're just reading a book and you can occasionally look outside and you see the rain coming down. And that's what I hear and that's what I see. And if you go into the second Zelda and Chill, there's also two different ones. I think like Rivali's theme is cozier, I think. It's a little bit more, you sit by the fire with your family feeling. It's a little more heartwarming, I guess. And then you have a little bit more, I would say colder songs, I think. I think a big one, Midna's Lament. And this one feels like you're walking throughout the house and your feet are a little bit cold. And as you go look at a window, you look outside and the sun is shining down onto just a field of snow out in your backyard. and you look out there, and you go put on a sweatshirt, and you, like, it's feeling a little chillier, and that feeling of wanting to be a little bit warmer. I don't know how to explain it that much better, but that's what it is. And there's so many songs that feel that way, that are more than just songs to me. I'm sorry, I'm just going through my playlist, see if I can get some really good examples. I can't see anything at the top. Shelter. Shelter by Porter Robinson, also Left Behind by Half an Orange, and Sail Like a Flamingo. Ow, almost tripped over a cord. But these feel, and this may be just because I very much so listen to them in fall, but these feel the feeling of outside being windy and a little bit chilly, maybe high 50s. But when you get into your car, you take your sweatshirt off, and when the sun hits your windows, it gets a little bit more, like, it gets warmer and, like, a little hot almost, and you have to take off some layers. And that's what it feels like. Every time I get that feeling, I'm reminded of these songs. When I see the songs, that's what I'm reminded of. And, like, I've talked about this a long time ago in January, a month ago, more than a month ago, probably, that a song called Children in the Dark by Tristam. And this song feels like longing, almost. Because when I talked about art not knowing what, but not how, I had talked about that song where I wanted to draw it, because I feel like I can represent it out inside. I think that's like a really cool idea to me, to be able to express that evenly. But that song I can encapsulate into one moment. I'm at my boarding school. I'm looking off down the field, off onto the lake. And on the other side of the lake, there's a good, decent-sized hill/mountain. And there's every so often a house. And every time you can see a house, the lights are lit up. And I remember I can feel sitting there, bundled up, taking a break, coming from a classroom, doing homework, going to my room to go to bed, and looking off into the distance, and being in awe of the view, and wondering what it's like in that house. What is it like on the other side of the lake looking back at me? And that's what it feels like. Like, let me go to the middle of my playlist. Maybe, I talked about Fix You. Bone Dry. Bone Dry is a real good one. Because Bone Dry by Tristam again, and there will be a lot of patterns within the songs that I listen to, but Bone Dry feels accepting. Like, it's a song about acceptance. And it gets that feeling to me that you've made choices in your life that are wrong in your past, and now it affects your future. And this song is about understanding it, and I can feel that. While it's upbeat a little bit, and like it's upbeat, it never is happy. It's never like gleeful and joyful. It's not that bouncy type. But when you listen to it, it's regretful. It's kind of sad. But then it has this beat of being happy and all this. And it's not a sadly optimistic song. It's not about looking into the future and saying that everything will be great. It's about understanding that everything went wrong. And you just have to accept what you are, and it's sometimes fine to do that. And it just feels like that. And it's so good. And like, I am definitely rambling at this point now. But there's so many songs that are like that in my playlists. And like that's how I listen to music. I'm so curious in that how other people listen to it. But to me, a song isn't a great song if it doesn't fall into those categories. Fun is almost a little bit separate. Fun can never be a masterpiece. The one within media can be masterpieces. But the ones that hold special places in my heart are the ones that I've attached memories, emotions, scenes to in my head. And every time I listen to them, I'm reminded of this feeling that I've had. I can see this scene and this play out in my head. And it's all down to the artist. Like, the artist will want to create something that's about painting a world within the music. And I feel like I extrapolate those ideas in my head more than other people. I think of music as lyrics. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I listen to an EDM song, that melody is not just a melody, it's a voice. It's telling a story. And I can hear that story. I can hear what's in the music and what emotion is trying to convey and what scene is portraying without it having to be lyrics. I think one of the best ones that I can think of is Hollow Heart by excuse me, by Porter Robinson. It is so good as a story itself within its lyrics. But my favorite part but a really cool part is that I can listen to this, and when it first comes in, it has this melody over a N64-esque guitar playing, and it does its thing, and then it transfers to another sound, and I see those as two people having a conversation. And I don't want to be pretentious, I don't want to be elitist, but this like, I hear that, and I internalize what they're trying to say and what the music is trying to say. And that's what it is. When I listen to music, I don't really care so much about what they are saying. Sometimes it's beautiful. I have a list of quotes that I've loved and want to implement their stories into any media that I will create. But the beauty lies within the music and the melodies. Because the music, the background music, the instrumentals, the melodies behind the vocals tell a story, and I can hear it. And sometimes the music tells a better story, a more beautiful story than anything else.